means. As such, council members may participate in person or by electronic means. For council members participating by electronic means, please ensure your video is turned on and let the clerk know if you have to leave the meeting for the purpose of confirming quorum. Council members are reminded that in accordance with section 14.13 of the procedure bylaw, members must enable their video to confirm quorum. If council members attending by electronic means lose their connection during any portion of the hearing, we'll recess the meeting until that connection is restored. And if council members lose connection during the voting process, staff will get you back online quickly while we suspend the voting process, and their contact information has been circulated to you. Members of the public can view the proceedings via live stream and YouTube link, which will be tweeted out by Van City Clerk. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. We thank them for having cared for this land and look forward to working with them in partnership as we continue to build this great city together. In case of an emergency where we need to evacuate the building, I'd like to direct your attention to the exits. There are 2 exits beyond the glass doors and to the left. If these exits are obstructed, please direct your exits your eyes to the 4 exits around the chamber. And please use the stairs and not the elevator in case of an emergency. I'd also like to highlight that there's a defibrillator located at the end of the hallway outside the council chamber. I would also like to take a moment to recognize the immense contributions of the City of Vancouver staff who work hard every day to help make our city an incredible place to live, work, and play. Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Sim is on a leave of absence for personal business. Councillor Carr. Councillor Kirby-Young. Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly.
Present.
Councillor Boyle.
Present.
Councillor Fry. Councillor Montague. Councillor Klassen. Councillor Meisner is in the chair. Councillor Joe.
Present.
You have quorum, Acting Mayor Meisner.
Thank you very much. So before we begin, I have some announcements. The public may participate by speaking in person, by phone, or by submitting written comments to Mayor and Council. Speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. Speakers should also state whether they are in support or opposed to the recommendations, and if they are a resident of Vancouver. Speakers may only speak once and should follow along on Twitter at Van City Clerk for updates on the progress of the meeting so they don't miss their turn to speak. Any comments on agenda items can be submitted in writing through our online Mayor and Council web feedback form, and this link will also be tweeted out. Those speaking on behalf of 4 or more persons or groups, including the speaker, will have 8 minutes to speak, and only if those represented are also on the line or in person, and must not be individual speakers themselves. I also would like to note the City of Vancouver's long-standing commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, including the utmost respect for all genders. I would like to remind Council that when addressing speakers and staff, we will avoid using gendered honorifics and will instead refer to the person by first and last name, role, or title. A reminder that Council's role at a public hearing is to be a quasi-judicial body, which means Council is only to consider the merits of the rezoning application or heritage designation. Council members may ask clarifying questions from speakers, including the applicant, or technical advice from staff, but should save their debate for after the close of the speakers list. After hearing from speakers, Council may 1. Approve the application in principle, 2. Refuse the application, or 3. Refer the application to staff for further consideration. At the public hearing on May 9th, 2023, Council received a presentation from staff and the applicant on CD1 rezoning 1040 to 1080 Barclay Street, asked questions of staff and the applicant, and heard from public speakers. Staff and the applicant gave closing comments, and Council had a final opportunity to ask staff questions. Recommendations in the report were moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Montague, and debate and decision was referred to today's meeting. So is there any debate? And I see Councillor Boyle, so please go ahead.
Thanks. Chair, can you remind me, I'm hoping to ask a question through you to staff. Is that still allowed now? As a point of information?
It's still okay? Yep, you may do that.
Hoping to ask staff about the parking on this project. There is a lot of parking for a downtown location, and I'm wondering why, and maybe more importantly, what is being done to reduce the parking, or what could council do to, would council direction be needed for staff to work to see whether there are other transportation demand management options that would reduce the depth of the and size of the parking garage?
Sure. My name is Tess Monroe. I'm the rezoning planner, but I'll pass it on to Rosemary, who's on WebEx. She's the engineer who looked at this for transportation.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Councillor Boyle, for the question. Rosemary Draskovic, Senior Transportation Engineer. So yes, this site is meeting the bylaw. They're actually providing in excess of the bylaw requirements for this area of the downtown. They have provided a draft transportation demand management plan, which makes them eligible for some fairly significant parking reductions, should they so choose. And that's an option that they can still take through the development permit process. So they are probably eligible for to reduce their parking by upwards of, I'd say, about 60% by my estimate, as an option.
And what you said, they're providing excess of the parking, which is exactly my concern. What does it look like for us to encourage that they provide less parking? Or do we not really have tools in place? I know we have some work coming back to us around parking maximums and minimums. Are there tools right now, or it's just?
So we typically use the transportation demand management plan as tools to reduce parking, and it's really incentive based. At this point, the applicant can choose how many parking spaces they want to provide based on the market demands, and we really only have maximum or requirements for certain types of uses. In this case, some of the social housing units will be required to provide parking, but the transportation management plan is really our primary tool to encourage that at this point.
Okay, and there is work coming back to us on the issue later this year? On parking maximums and
Yes.
minimums?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rosemary. Yes.
Okay.
And the traffic demand management is a tool. And I spoke with Jeff, one of the representatives of the project earlier, and he said they will explore that tool to look to reduce some parking. They're not, we can't require them, but we will certainly encourage them to do so.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that larger policy work coming back to us. I'll just say I support this proposal, though the excess of parking is pretty disappointing to see in such a central location, where we want to be encouraging people to take fewer trips by car in a climate emergency, and just in terms of having less congestion downtown. So I hope to see a reduction in the parking, but we'll support it as is for the housing. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Boyle. Councillor Dominato.
Thank you, Chair. And I actually had a similar question, so I appreciate Councillor Boyle brought that up. I just want to follow up with one as a point of information, is just on the subject of parking, is as you note that parking number may be reduced, but I'm curious if in the conversations you had with the builder to date, the rationale for including such a high level of parking, was it a view that there was a demand for that? Because what we've heard in the past is that these developments go ahead, parking's included, and then it's not used. And so I'm just curious if there's more of a rationale for that. Because it wasn't 800 spots that are in this proposal.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes,
shocking to me
it's
when I
quite a
heard the
bit.
number.
And it was, they were exploring the marketability of the units and seeing how much they would need to be able to provide to increase the marketability of the units. But those are conversations we'll absolutely have with them through the DP and the rest of this process.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'll make comments later, but I certainly echo the comments of my colleague, Councillor Boyle, on this one. I think it's such a central downtown area that has lots of transit, and many young people are not even driving or adopting to have a vehicle. So I'm certainly interested to see how this shapes up going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dominato. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you. Apropos of the parking, I just have a question too to staff around the, and it's not a subject of this hearing, but there is in the presentation on this, in terms of the staff report, it is stated that there's going to likely be a proposal coming forward for a new commercial building, 7-story. Appendix E. It's got a drawing of it, so, or a sketch.
Thank you, Council. Let us just check.
Anyway, my point as you're looking it up is really, how does that interface with the current parking? That I'm not clear about, but, and I know it's not the subject, it's just that since parking was brought up, and the future of whatever's going to happen to it, I'm interested in how does that link to the potential future development of another building up behind the facade?
So Kevin's, and maybe you want to come up, Kevin. Kevin's telling me the remainder site is eligible up to 7 stories.
Yes.
There will be some retail in this building,
Yes.
and the additional site is all commercial?
Yeah, so I think while we're looking this up, I suspect that probably what it is that there is, within the immediate context, one additional site that could be redeveloped. It's got a heritage building on it right now. If that were to be redeveloped, it would be limited to a 7-story redevelopment, probably with commercial uses and residential uses in it. That is, of course, not including the fact, or independent of the fact that there's a heritage resource on it. This development, as Teresa noted, includes retail and commercial uses in it.
Right, great, yes, okay, that's good. It just was interesting to me that it was at least included in our materials on this site, this particular rezoning, although it's not the subject of the rezoning, I'm clear about that, but just interested in the interface. Okay, that's it for my questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Carr. Okay, seeing no more questions or debate, I'm now going to call the vote. Clerk, if you could please take us to the voting screen, and Council, if you could please register your vote on the voting panel. Councillor Bly, do you mind turning your camera back on for the vote, if possible? Okay, Councillor Bly, we will have to consider you absent if your camera's off for the vote. So we'll go ahead and vote. Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, we'll now go on to item 6. That is heritage designation, 852 Seymour Street. Does any member of council wish to declare a conflict of interest on item 6? Okay, seeing none. The clerk will now read the application and a summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by Arno Matisse Architecture to bring forward for enactment a bylaw to designate the retained historic street facade of the existing building, which is listed in the Vancouver Heritage Register in the B evaluation category, addressed at 852 Seymour Street as protected heritage property. The General Manager of Planning, Urban Design, and Sustainability, in consultation with the Director of Legal Services, recommends approval. No correspondence has been received on this application since it was referred to public hearing.
Thank you very much. This is our first call for speakers. Any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll free at 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445#, before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream. Any speakers who are in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium before the close of the speakers list. And there will be an opportunity for new speakers and missed speakers to be added to the end of the speakers list. And we do have staff from Planning and Urban Design and Sustainability here to introduce the application, but since there are no registered speakers, I'd like to suggest that we waive the presentation. And can I get a mover on that? Councillor Montague, I see you on the queue.
Yeah, I was just going to say, since there's no speakers, move to waive the presentation and have it distributed to council via email.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Montague. Can I get a seconder, please? Okay, Councillor Boyle, thank you. All those in favor say yay. Any opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries. Okay, is the applicant team here to speak to the application?
James Todd with JT Development Consultants, but we're here to take questions, but we don't have a presentation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, noted. If there are any questions from council to staff or the applicant team, I would like to note that this is the only opportunity for council to ask questions of the applicant. We'll now hear from public, and there's no registered speakers. So I'll do my second call for speakers. If there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream. Any speakers in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium before the close of the speakers list. And speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. I'll check with the clerk if we have any speakers on the line.
There are no speakers on the line.
Okay, thank you. So I'll now do the third and final call for speakers on this item. If you'd like to speak to the item to council, please call toll-free 1-833-353. There's a lot of threes in here. 8610, followed by participant code 106-1445# before the close of the speakers list. The phone number will be tweeted out and made available on the live stream, and any speakers in the council chamber, please come forward to the podium. And we'll take a 5-minute recess to see if we receive any calls on this item. So we will return in 5 minutes. Okay, thanks, everybody. We're now back. Seeing as there are no additional speakers, the speakers list on this item is now closed. And seeing as there are little to no comments received after 2 p.m. today on this item, I'm now closing the receipt of public comments. Okay, does the applicant have any closing comments? Any closing comments from the applicant? I'm seeing a no. Staff?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Staff, do you have any closing comments?
No closing comments.
Okay, thank you. And does council have any questions for staff? Okay, not seeing any questions. And Clerk, did we receive any additional comments since the close of public comments?
No correspondence has been received.
Okay, thank you. So council will now make its decision on the application. Do we have a mover for the recommendation? Okay, Councillor Carr moved it, seconded by Councillor Dominato. And is there any debate? Not seeing any debate. Okay, just a reminder to any council member that's joining virtually, if your video is disabled, you'll be marked absent for the vote pursuant to section 14.13 of the procedure bylaw. So I'm now going to call the vote. Clerk, if you could please take us to the voting screen, and council, if you could please register your vote on the voting panel.
Councillor Bly, if I could get a vote assist in favor, please.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Bly. Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, we need a motion to adjourn. Okay, moved by Councillor Kirby-Young, seconded by Councillor Dominato. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried, and this meeting is now adjourned. And council, we will reconvene in our in-camera meeting shortly. Thank you. Directly after this.